Welcome. As we start learning the structures of the male reproductive system, and in this video, we're going to learn about some of the external male reproductive organs. So let's start first with the scrotum. The scrotum is a hair-bearing sac of skin that contains other organs. And there are many things in the scrotum, some of which we will learn. Oh, and by the way, let me explain these various pictures to you. In the upper left-hand corner, there is a model of the male reproductive system, and what you're looking at is an anterior view. In the upper right, you are looking at a lateral view, but the lateral view is kind of like with the skin and adipose tissue pulled away, whereas in the lower right, this is a lateral view as well, but this is more of a sagittal cut where more tissue has been cut away. And then in the lower quadrant, there is an artist rendering, not a model. Within the scrotum, there is a ball-shaped structure known as the testis. Notice it's not a testicle, it's a testis with a T-E-S-T-I-S. If you see this word spelled with two E's, T-E-S-T-E-S, that's the plural form of the word. And the testis itself is surrounded by a dense, fibrous, connective tissue that is white in color. And so we take the prefix that means white, which is ALB, and this is a covering or a coat, thus the word tunica. So it's called the tunica albuginea, which can be seen in the models on the left, where the testis has been cut in half. You can see the white covering layer on it. The model on the right is basically a blow up of the testis and its adjacent organ. And for some reason in this model, the tunica albuginea has been made in a gray color. Within the testis, the tunica albuginea actually has these septae which go inside it and divided into hundreds of different containers. And within each section, there are 6-foot-long tubules. And each of these tubules is known as a seminiferous tubule. And this is going to be the location for sperm formation inside the seminiferous tubule in the testis. Now, if I stick with this picture, above and posterior to the testis, so you can clearly see that on this view. In the anterior view, you're seeing it above. On the lateral views, you're seeing it above and below. And in the left lower quadrant, this is actually human tissue with the testis here. You can see in the pale tan color, this comma-shaped structure, which is both above and posterior to the testis. This is the epididymis. And so when we look at the epididymis, this is like the head of the epididymis, and this is the tail of the epididymis. And then from the epididymis, the sperm will travel into another structure, a tubular structure that has other structures that accompany it. And so the entire thing is called the spermatic cord. And there are many things in the spermatic cord. There are nerves, there are blood vessels, arterial and venous blood vessels, as well as in the middle of the spermatic cord, there is this little tubular structure which will contain the sperm. So basically, I have put circles where you can see the spermatic cord in the various models. So the tubular structure that carries the sperm, so one of the structures in the spermatic cord, this is the vas deferens. So the vas deferens essentially starts at the inferior or the tail of the epididymis, travels within the spermatic cord, then has to make its way through the anterior abdominal wall, and will travel on the sides of the urinary bladder to go on the posterior aspect of the urinary bladder. So in the left upper quadrant, you can see that there you have a tubular structure, which is part of the entire spermatic cord. The left lower picture is the same model looking at it from behind, and so you can see the spermatic cord going on the side. This is the urinary bladder here, which is the same as the structure of the urinary bladder. So you can see the spermatic cord going behind it and going towards a more medial location posteriorly. The upper right, you see it traveling externally, going through the abdominal wall on the side of the urinary bladder right here to go posteriorly. Now, another structure that's within the spermatic cord is called the pampiniform plexus, and this is a venous plexus, which is represented by all these little tiny blue blood vessels within the spermatic cord area. And with that, we are done with this area of external male reproductive organs. Notice we didn't cover the penis. We will come back to it later as the path of sperm travels and eventually ends up in that structure. Thank you, and I will see you again shortly.